Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute since I filmed the video. I took a while off from reading, honestly, because I wasn't feeling like it. I was mainly playing Anno 1404. Highly recommend it if you're into city building, strategy games. So good. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about the books, finally, that I read in March. And March is actually a really great reading month for me. I ended up reading 15 books, which is a lot. A lot of them were actually ebooks from my library and audiobooks as well. So there's a good mix in here and we're just gonna go through them right away because otherwise this video is gonna be even longer than it's already going to. So first of all, let's talk about some DNFs. I DNF'd 2 books this month. The first was Pride by Edie's Boy. I listened to this on audiobook, got the audiobook from the library. I tried listening to this for the reading Booktuber's Most Hated Books of 2019 video that I'm sure you've already seen. If not, it's linked everywhere. And I just really couldn't get into it. I didn't connect to the story, and it felt like the magic of the actual Pride and Prejudice, of which this is a retelling, was just missing for me. So I DNF'd it, didn't give it a rating, just not my thing. And the other book I DNF'd is also an audiobook, also from the library, and that is The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. This one I got about 25% through, but I honestly just did not care about it at all. It's about the woman who is like agoraphobic, so she always stays in her house. She has a husband and a daughter, but she basically doesn't have much of a relationship with them, I think. And then she kind of just like makes friends or gets obsessed with a neighboring family and like watches them through the window. I just don't care about it. Like, I don't know what it is that I'm not intrigued. I don't care. I feel like a lot of the book is probably like misdirection. But I feel like I can already tell that it is. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. But I'm just like not invested in it and I don't care. So I think I'm just going to read some spoilers somewhere and then be done with it, basically. But that's the books that I actually finished. The book that has the honor of being titled the worst book I read in March and probably the entire year is Steppin and Dumped by Shelby Mahorin. I just a week ago uploaded a review for this, so you should go and watch that. It is sort of spoiler free because I don't talk about like specific plot points because honestly there isn't that much until the very end. So, I mean, you can watch it even if you haven't read the book. I recommend the video because I was drinking wine while filming the video, so the end result is a little bit tipsy, to say the least. But this was garbage, so let's move on. This next book is also already familiar to you, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I ended up giving this 2 stars. Again, read it for that video. It wasn't terrible like I had expected. It was mainly just boring, extremely uneventful, didn't care about the characters, still don't. And the only interesting moment, the only actual plot that happens like in the last 100 or so pages, which is truly a shame. Of a 400-page book, like you have to trudge through so much nonsense and garbage and nothingness to get to the actual plot. So I think what people who say that the sequels are better are probably right. I still am not convinced that I'm gonna read them. Another 2-star was The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. So far, my least favorite Ruth Ware by a long shot. I felt like, again, this book was just really boring. It feels like nothing happens, and even the intriguing bits of it never fully gripped me. Like, the things that I thought would be interesting and like intriguing in theory ended up not really getting me there, and I was just kind of mainly going through the motions of this book without ever really feeling like I was invested. This book, by the way, follows a woman who kind of gets the opportunity as a journalist to join a cruise, and then the first night of the cruise she hears the woman in the cabin next to her being kind of thrown overboard, like calling for help, being thrown overboard. But when she inquires and like tries to figure out what happened and tell people about it, she finds out that that cabin was actually like empty and no one knows the woman that she describes as having disappeared because she's seen her before. So it's a mystery, obviously, and in typical Ruth Ware fashion, it is well written in terms of like language, and even the atmosphere is sometimes there, but overall it was just really a weak thriller and didn't get me there. And also it is just really nonsensical as well, which is never good. Another 2-star. We had a lot this month. This one, The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson, the 3rd book in the Truly Devious series, and again, a major disappointment. The 2nd book in this trilogy was on my most disappointing books of 2019 list, but I had still held on to hopes for the 3rd book to be actually good. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was just kind of more of the same nothingness that really plagued the 2nd book. this is supposed to be a mystery, but literally nothing happens for the first 2/3 or so, and then the reader basically finds out the solution to the mystery in a series of flashbacks, and Stevie, the girl who's supposed to uncover all this herself, finds out by random chance and like enlightenment given to her by God or some crazy shit. I don't understand. Like, she just knows stuff all of a sudden. There's no build up. There's no big reveal. There's no, oh my God, I had no idea. This is crazy. None of that. It's just really boring. Also, the plot seemed to really not know what he was trying to do. Again, in an attempt, I assume, of the author to like stall us and like get more bang for her buck, or our buck in this case, because I paid $10 for this. Thank you very much. In the middle of this, she turned it into like a political story, which it wasn't and shouldn't have been. And then that just gets resolved in an instant, and then we're back to the main plot. So basically, we just went through the whole excursion into like the political side of things, and then went back to continue as we were, with nothing actually changed, and us just having wasted a ton of time. Overall, I think the series is one of the worst because it is so disappointing. The first book had so much potential. It was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. But the sequels just left me bitter. That's what it is. I'm very bitter. And you're better off not reading these, to be honest. And my final 2-star was actually 2.5 star, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, another book for the video. I thought this was not as terrible as I had expected, but it was slow-paced. I hated the characters, had like literally no personality, and the book again didn't know what it was trying to do. This seems to be like a theme for books I read this month. I feel like they were just like all over the place. Like they didn't have one specific focus. This book was trying to do a romance that's kind of idealistic and like fairy tale-esque in its setup, but at the same time be real and like touch on political issues and be like relevant, and it just wasn't working for me. And I thought the book was just so long, like way too long. Could have been cut in half. I don't need a 400-page romance. Thank you very much. Now on to my 3 stars. The first was actually quite a surprise, and that is Final Girls by Riley Sager. This is my last Riley Sager that I was still missing, and as you might know, I hated his other work. I only read this because it was on my library's overdrive, and I was like, whatever, let's just give it a go. And honestly, it was my most positive experience with the Riley Sager book, because what really like bothered me with his other works is that they were so unrealistic, in my opinion. Like he wasn't even trying to, he was trying to go for a realistic premise, but then he wasn't trying to like actually make it appear like it could happen in real life. And in this case, it felt to me like he wasn't even aiming at a realistic thriller, more like a campy slasher, just like fun horror thriller movie type thing, like that you just don't think too much about. And so the fact that parts of the book didn't make a ton of sense in the real world wasn't as bad to me as it was with his other books, if that makes any sense. It did have its slow parts, but overall I thought it was decently fun. There were some twists, and even though I predicted the ending, I overall had like a more positive experience with it than I did with his other works. So it was okay. I still don't recommend it, I would say, but like better. Rather, if you're gonna read this Riley Sager, read this one. Don't read the others, basically. Another thriller, another audiobook. This time, One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. This is a YA thriller kind of thing. It's set at a high school. It follows this group of friends, I think they're friends, and they're all put into detention together, and then one of them dies, and the others, like, all technically have motives, basically, because the guy who died, Simon, actually had a blog where he was like publishing dirty details about everyone's lives, and I really just enjoyed this book. It was just like basic fun. It was kind of predictable, and honestly, I don't understand the title, because it's not like they're all telling like different stories necessarily, and then like 3 of them are true and wrong, 1 is wrong. It's just like much more complex than that. So I don't really understand the title, but you know, it's a minor problem. I think overall it was not too deep, not special by any stretch of the imagination, but it was fun and enjoyable, and so I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, the graphic novel sensation that has swept the BookTube nation, essentially. I'd been hearing about this for so long, I thought, whatever, it's apparently free to read on the author's blog, so I went and did it. I'm not about to spend that much money for like I mean, I honestly, like 30 minutes of reading. That's how long it took to read the whole thing. It was mediocre. Obviously, the book is targeted at a much younger audience that is possibly going through the same things as the characters in it, and that's, you know, great that they have something to read like this, but for me it was just too simplistic, too cutesy, and there was just nothing much of substance in my opinion. I think the art is okay, it just feels very juvenile, and that's because it is, and that's fine. I don't need to be the target audience for everything, but yeah, in my opinion it was just mediocre. Then I listened to I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is a nonfiction book about the author basically being obsessed with and hunting down the Golden State serial rapist and killer, in a sense that she wanted to uncover who he was, not like actually like chasing the person. The author unfortunately passed away before the book was finished, and also before the guy was actually caught, because now we know who did it. And I do believe that her work and her efforts were definitely material to eventually uncovering who he was. It basically just took time for technology to catch up and be able to trace it back to him. So it's just kind of a tragic story, and I enjoyed the book in the sense that I thought it was well told. It kind of reminded me of Stephanie Harlow and her like true crime videos, in a sense it's just like reconstructing these events and like going into quite a bit of detail on many of them. And while I wasn't always 100% invested, and I felt like sometimes it became more about the author rather than the story, or like rather than the hunt for this killer, which just wasn't really what I was looking for. Overall, I think it's still a good book. And especially like understanding how much work and heart and soul like the author put into this investigation and everything like that, and the fact that she unfortunately passed away before she could enjoy the fruits, if you will, of her research. I think the book is just like, it's okay. If you're like a true crime fan, you will probably enjoy it, but I think for the most part, people will be fine just like reading a Wikipedia entry. And that's honestly how I feel about most true crime books. It's like, they're so detailed that unless you're like really interested in that particular case, you're probably better off just reading a summary somewhere. But it sounds mean, because these are like real people we're talking about, real events. But, you know, I don't know. You know, you maybe know what I mean, maybe not. Anyway, moving on. The next book I rated 3.5 stars, and that is my favorite Half Nightstand by Christina Lauren. So far my least favorite Christina Lauren, but still quite a lot of fun. This one follows a woman who has like these 3 guy friends that she spends a lot of time with, but one of them has kind of caught her eye in particular. Because of their dynamic and like this friendship, she doesn't want to upset the situation, so she doesn't make a move on him or anything like that, except for when they have a half nightstand, I guess. Like they sleep together, I think twice, and then nothing more comes of it. And when they're all joined this dating app in order to find dates to an event, she basically pretends to be someone else and kind of catfishes her friend Reed and tries to like make that more romantic connection, that deeper emotional connection with him that way. But obviously it goes wrong. Like it's a mess. Like don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do. Like I mean, in the book she has like some excuses, but honestly don't. There isn't one. There isn't ever an excuse to catfish anyone, and particularly not people you know. It's just the worst. Don't do it. So this book isn't flawless by any means. I thought it was too short. There wasn't enough time devoted to this development from friendship to romance, which is one of my favorite things in books, because we already have them be like really close friends at the very beginning, and then literally in the first chapter or so, maybe not quite the first, but very soon they sleep together. So the time that is just spent on their friendship alone is just really short, and I wanted more. I just wanted more of everything in general. It's a bit rushed, but on the upside, it's a quick read. It's still very enjoyable and cute as shit. One last 3-star, actually a 3.5, and that is 3 Wishes, accurately titled, by Leanne Moriarty. This book follows 3 triplets. It follows triplets not three triplets. 3 sisters, they're triplets, and they have this like very close but also tumultuous relationship, and the book follows them as they kind of go through life. One of them discovers that her husband has been cheating on her, so it just sets a bunch of stuff in motion. There's a lot of family drama, a lot of sisterly drama, and also some kind of mystery elements to it. I don't know. I love Liane Moriarty and the way that she tells these stories that are so lighthearted on one side and also just really deep and meaningful on the other, and she balances those two elements out so well that you never feel too sad, but you also don't feel like the situation is being made light of. So overall, I kind of really enjoyed this. I felt like it didn't like fully give me what I wanted from it, but it's a solid book, and it's actually Liane Moriarty's debut novel as far as I know, so definitely great, and a good sort of forecast of things to come in her later works. And I still really recommend it if you're into Liane Moriarty. And if you haven't read a book by her yet, please do. Read Big Little Lies. It's her best work so far. I don't know, I haven't read everything by her, but it's really good. Read it. You won't regret it. The next book I again listened to in audio. It's my first 4-star, and that is We Should All Be Feminist by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is just a short essay about what it means to be a feminist and why feminism is important. And while I agree with what the author says in the book, I don't think any of it is really revolutionary. Like, if you don't know anything, I mean, how would you? But like, if you really don't know anything about feminism, then I guess this is a good starting off point, but it's just very basic. It touches on like the barest of the surface, which is fine because it's so short. It doesn't have time to do more. I still gave it 4 stars though, because I think it's very important, very meaningful, and eloquently told. Then I read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and this was a really big surprise. I didn't even want to read this until I decided to do that video, and I ended up really enjoying it. I think this book is a good start to a series. It's definitely solid. It's also a little confused again in what it's trying to do. It's telling too many stories in once, it felt like, and also it was too long, and there were like really slow paced, like descriptive passages that just moved super slow. But at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it a lot. Like, I know I'm just like listing all the negatives, but that's because everything else I really liked. I really liked the characters, I like the setup, I like this world. I think Leigh Bardugo is actually doing some of her best writing in this book, in my opinion, since I didn't really enjoy her other stuff. So I'm definitely excited for the sequels. I'm definitely going to continue, even though it's going to be like, I don't know, an 8-book series, which is insane. But we'll see. I'm very excited for things to come. Next, I reread Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, and this time around I gave it 4 stars. The last time I gave it 5, and I loved it so much, and I wanted to reread it. But honestly, reading it again made me sort of realize the book's flaws, because it does have them. I think if you read them with fresh eyes, like for the very first time, you're just enamored by the story and by this couple, and like, it's so great. But the ending is so cringe, and it's so unnecessary, and like, I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated it, or like, I didn't like it at all the first time around. The second time, it's even worse. It's so bad. I don't enjoy it. Bumped it down, I guess, to a 4. It was still fun. It's still a quick read. I guess, enjoyed it, but it's not like, oh my God, my favorite book in the world, like I thought about it last year. And finally, my favorite book this month, a 4.5, The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I read this again for that video. It was my favorite book that I got out of it. I really, really enjoyed it. This is inspired by a Russian fairy tale, and it's just such a beautifully told story. It's so slow paced, but that was almost my favorite thing about it, because it just like really let you feel this atmosphere and let you experience everything alongside the characters. I just adored it. I love it. I love the magic in it. I love the main character Vasya, and like her finding her role in the world and like fighting for the right to choose her own life instead of having it like forced upon her. And I will say the romance in this comes out of nowhere. It's a little bit confusing, but I'm hoping it gets more time in the sequels to like develop. But I absolutely love this. I think it's wonderful, and I already bought the sequels. I can't wait to read them. Highly recommend this. I know now is definitely not the right time to be picking this up because it's so like wintry in every aspect. It's basically set in Russia, which is really, really cold. So a lot of the book is set in snowy landscapes and stuff like that, which right now it's almost summer. So that's not good timing. But if it is cold where you live, or you don't really care if the book matches the weather or the season, definitely check these books out, or at least the first one. It is phenomenal. And that is it for my March wrap up. Took us quite a while to film this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what books you read in March and how your April reading month is going. I hope you're all staying safe and staying home. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe, and I will see you back very soon with another video. Until then, have a lovely week. Bye.